Hello everybody, the Nameless Narcissist here once again. Simple man diagnosed with NPD, giving you the facts on narcissistic personality disorder and the things that go on in my head. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. But keep in mind, I am no clinician. I can only speak to my own experiences. So, anyways, I was just kind of rummaging around on YouTube the other day because I was bored out of my mind. And I found a video from a relatively small channel called Abuse is Abuse or something like that. And I don't want it to look like I'm punching down, so I'm going to give because I didn't think it was a bad video, not whatsoever. I think it was actually pretty damn good and something that a lot of people need to hear. I just think that she missed some of the logical conclusions to draw from some of the things that she said. So anyways, her video was called, Are They a Narcissist, right? Because I think this is the question we all want to know sometimes. It's like, oh my gosh, are they a narcissist, blah, blah, blah. Especially with the associations that has nowadays. And she starts it off in a way that's like, I loved. She said that like it could be tempting to try to not diagnose, but like label somebody as a narcissist because that label can be comforting in a lot of ways. For example, understanding why the stuff is happening to you. And mainly that, right? But also she points out that this may become an excuse for an abuser, though. Oh, they have a mental illness, they can't help what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's a great point. And she even points out that none of us are qualified to diagnose somebody like that. Even if you are a psychologist, you cannot armchair diagnose some person you just meet. They have to be in front of you in a clinical setting for a long period of time. But then she gets into some things I do kind of disagree with. She goes on to say that you can label the behaviors, which yeah, fair, you can. And that the label doesn't matter as much as behaviors, and that calling somebody a narcissist can be used as shorthand in that, which I do think is counterintuitive to kind of the point she was making, right? Because I would agree with this if there was a distinction between narcissist and narcissistic personality disorder. And I think that there should be. I think we need to start separating the people who are mentally ill and the people who are just, abusive assholes, right? But she didn't really touch on that. It was just kind of like, oh yes, this can be used as a shorthand to describe narcissistic people, but this is inherently tied to the disorder. So I do kind of disagree with her there. And she also stated that, there's common. She kind of associated a lot of abusive behaviors with narcissism, even though these behaviors were not intrinsic to the disorder. Being mistreated, abused, the other person refuses to take responsibility. And she goes on to say that, it doesn't matter if they are narcissists or not, and that you should leave them regardless of that diagnosis, which again, I disagree with, I agree with, because why? I think that their pathology should be the last thing on your mind if you're trying to get out of a toxic situation. And again, I feel like this is just making excuses. It's like, oh, they're mentally ill. And I feel like it can easily lead down the slippery slope. But yeah, it should be the least relevant thing. But I think that we are still intrinsically pathologizing this abuse if we are so eager to label them as narcissists and use that as shorthand for effectively just an abuser. And she quotes this book that I forget what she said it was, but she described a abuser as painting the self as victim, possessing, control versus power, they view abuse as love and extensive. And this I feel like I haven't read the book and I'm not sure, I can't make this conclusion cohesively, but it sounds like because these are common behaviors associated with narcissism, right? None of this stuff is in the DSM, but I can see how there'd be a lot of overlap here in certain ways. And it did sound like she was just kind of almost, I can't make this assumption, but it sounds like she was almost cherry picking some of these things to paint narcissism as the equivalency of abuse. And that's conjecture on my part. I could be completely wrong about that, but that's kind of what it sounded like, and especially the wording and stuff that she used. And she said that the question she gets a lot is, do they know what they're doing wrong? And she goes on to say, that doesn't matter. If you're being hurt, then get out, right? Again, 100% agree. She also said they wouldn't feel a need to hide it if they knew that it wasn't wrong. Sure, right? And saying that maybe they weren't aware. I mean, they were still ignoring your boundaries, still ignoring the things that were going on in the relationship. Again, completely agree. But again, it's this, and that's not what I have an issue with. It's because, like, wouldn't feel a need to hide it. I feel like she is trying to tie this into, narcissistic masking and stuff. While people really conflate masking with, oh, they're not abusive in public, but they're abusive in private. And that's not true. People who, like, that's not masking. For a narcissist, we're hiding all of ourselves all the time. My partners never saw all of me. None of my friends ever see all of me, et cetera, et cetera. It's this, and like, I feel like it's another way to misinterpret a very common behavior or pattern with narcissism. And then she goes on to use words like, gaslighting and discarding and stuff like that, words commonly associated with narcissism, which are just, they're just buzz terms. These are not words. Sure, some of them do describe some narcissistic behavior. I disagree with quite a few of them and the way that they're used, but these are not intrinsic to narcissism. And I mean, hell, they're on the DSM, right? It doesn't say in the DSM, they will gaslight you, they will discard you, they will hoover you, stuff like that. And the fact that she was using these terms to describe abusive behavior, I think, has an implication. And it feels like a lot of this video is kind of going up against what she's saying. We shouldn't we are conflating narcissism with abuse. How is that helpful? Why don't we look at it as abuse, and then in post, maybe you can get some more comfort knowing what the motivating factors were. Because when we basically call all abuse some expression of narcissism, we are ignoring the other pathologies that it could have been. How are you going to get any sort of comfort if you are grappling with a completely different pathology? And some of these personality disorders can look very similar. Not to mention the, what was I going to say? Fuck. Oh, yeah. And she points out that, okay, people look for this label as an excuse to leave, right? I 100% agree. They feel like they can justify leaving if they are a narcissist because, at least in their minds, they can't change. And if they don't give them that label, they're like, oh, well, they aren't a narcissist, so maybe I should stick to that. 100% agree, but she's forgetting the other side of that. Why should we be looking at narcissism as an excuse to leave? Why is our immediate thought when somebody's a narcissist, oh, I need to get out of this relationship? If you're with somebody who is narcissistic, but you generally had a happy relationship, and they weren't aware, but you generally had a healthy relationship and they were making efforts to change and to accommodate for your needs, does that mean that you should leave them just because they're a narcissist? I disagree completely with that. You might love them. You might have a very happy relationship that doesn't have any abuse in it. So why throw away that relationship just because of this term? And I feel like that's the other side of it that she's neglecting, is that we conflate narcissism with needing to leave. Why would that be the case? She did have a really good definition of abuse that I love, because I always struggle with, define abuse, right? What is abuse? It's hard to say, right? And she said it's a pattern of unequal power over a period of time, which I really like, because not only is it saying how important the power dynamic is in it, but also it goes along over a long span of time. It's like somebody slips up once and then they're like, fuck, I'm sorry. Would you call that abuse? And they never do it again. Probably not. That wouldn't be abuse unless it's a pattern of continuously violating boundaries and of basically not willing to change. It's, again, there's a lot in this video. I think a lot of people could take a lot from that video, right? I think there's people that need to hear this. But the fact that she's still clinging on to the abuse narrative in narcissism is counterproductive to both her goals and mine. Because I feel like this pattern of pathologizing abuse isn't helpful to anybody. Yes, I agree. Narcissists are more prone to hurt people, of course. It's unintentional 90% of the time, and we don't, we aren't aware of what we're doing. That's no excuse for us, right? But it still isn't healthy for us to just tie abuse and limit it to this one mental disorder. Pathologies aren't abusers. It's the people who are. Oh no, video, 6 out of 10. Nah, I'm not actually gonna rate it like that. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like if she just went one step further, this would have been an amazing video. But she failed to come to those logical conclusions that benefit not only people who are victims of narcissists, but also narcissists themselves. And I think that we could all use a little bit more of both of those sides. That's just my take, though. Who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong and I'm insane. Well, I am insane, but maybe I'm just completely wrong. That's all I really had to say. It was a really short video. It was only like 5 minutes, so not much else to say on it. Kind of surprising like that, because I feel like that topic could be talked about for a much longer time. My response is fucking 10 minutes instead of 5, so apparently there was. And I'm not going that far into it. Maybe I should talk about it more. Who knows? I don't really care that much. Just thought I'd make a quick little thing. Again, I'm not trying to punch down, so I'm gonna link the video. Don't be mean to her, though. She didn't do anything. Anyways, bye. Take your fucking meds.